The year was 2347, and humanity had discovered faster than light travel only 18 months ago. It was an accident, really. A scientist named Kevin Park had been trying to build a better coffee machine when he accidentally folded space and time. The explosion destroyed half his laboratory, but it also opened a door to the stars. Captain Daniel Shaw stood on the bridge of the Earth vessel Horizon. The ship was old. It had been a mining vessel before the government converted it for exploration. The walls were thin, the engines were loud, and the food synthesizer only made 3 kinds of meals. But it was humanity's first ship capable of traveling between stars, and Daniel was proud to command it. Beside him stood Commander Lisa Morgan, his second in command. She was younger than Daniel by 10 years, with sharp eyes and a mind that worked faster than any computer. She had been checking the navigation readings for the past hour, and her face showed deep concern. "Captain, I am picking up something strange," she said. "There is a massive energy signature ahead. Thousands of ships, all gathered in one location." Daniel leaned forward in his chair. "Thousands? Are you sure? I have checked 3 times. The readings are clear. This is the largest gathering of vessels I have ever seen." Daniel thought about this for a moment. Humanity had not yet encountered any other intelligent species. They had found ruins on distant moons and strange signals from faraway stars, but no living aliens. If there were thousands of ships ahead, it could only mean one thing. "Take us in," Daniel ordered. "Slowly. Keep our weapons offline and our shields down. We do not want to appear threatening." The Horizon moved forward through the darkness of space. As they got closer, the view on their screens changed. What Daniel saw made his heart stop. Ships of every size and shape filled the space before them. Some were as small as fighters. Others were larger than cities. They came in colors that Daniel had no names for, built from materials that human science could not identify. And at the center of this massive fleet was a station so large that it blocked out the light from 3 nearby stars. "What is this place?" Lisa whispered. Before Daniel could answer, the Horizon's autopilot system activated on its own. The ship lurched forward, pulled by some invisible force. Alarms screamed throughout the vessel as they were dragged toward the center of the gathering. "I cannot stop it," the pilot shouted. "Something has taken control of our navigation." Daniel grabbed the arms of his chair as the ship shook violently. Through the viewport, he watched as they passed between massive warships. Weapons that could destroy planets turned to track their movement. Sensors scanned every inch of their tiny vessel. And then, without warning, they stopped. The Horizon floated in the center of an enormous chamber. The walls were made of transparent material, and through them, Daniel could see thousands of viewing platforms filled with beings of every description. Some had scales, others had feathers. A few were made of pure light. All of them were staring at the small human ship that had appeared in their midst. Lisa checked her readings and went pale. "Captain, we are inside the station. We somehow passed through their defenses without triggering a single alarm. According to my scans, no ship has ever done that before." Daniel understood immediately. They had not found an alien gathering by chance. They had stumbled into something important, something protected by technology far beyond human understanding. And they had crashed the party in the most dramatic way possible. "Open a communication channel," Daniel said. His voice was calm, though his heart was racing. "All frequencies." "Channel open, Captain." Daniel stood up from his chair and straightened his uniform. He had no idea what he was going to say, but he knew that the next few words would determine humanity's future. He took a deep breath and spoke. "This is Captain Daniel Shaw of the Earth vessel Horizon. We come in peace. Also, we appear to be lost." The silence that followed was the longest 14 seconds of Daniel's life. Then every alarm on every ship in the chamber began screaming at once. Weapons powered up. Shields activated. Voices in 1,000 languages filled the communication. Channels all talking over each other in panic and confusion. On the observation deck of the Council flagship, Ambassador Vrek Tal of the Scythery Collective watched the chaos unfold. He was a tall being with 4 eyes and skin that changed color with his emotions. Right now, his skin was a deep purple, the color of extreme surprise. "They should not be here," he said to his aide, a smaller creature of the same species. The humans were not scheduled for first contact for another 300 years. Our observers reported that they had only just discovered space travel. How did they get through our defenses? The aide asked. Rektal had no answer. The Grand Assembly Chamber was protected by technology developed over 40,000 years. It could detect and stop any ship in the galaxy. And yet this primitive human vessel, held together with basic metals and simple electronics, had passed through as if the defenses did not exist. Should we destroy them? The aide asked. Rektal considered the question carefully. The humans had done nothing hostile. Their weapons were offline. Their shields were down. They appeared genuinely confused about where they were and how they had gotten there. And there was something in the captain's voice that the universal translator struggled to convey. It almost sounded like amusement, as if the human found this situation funny. No, Rektal decided. We will not destroy them, not yet. He watched as the human captain stood calmly on his bridge, surrounded by crew members who looked terrified. The captain was speaking to them, and though Rektal could not hear the words, he could see the effect. The crew members stopped panicking. They returned to their stations. They began working leadership, Rektal realized. True leadership. This human had just appeared in the most dangerous situation imaginable, and instead of fear, he showed confidence. Instead of panic, he showed calm. Either he was very brave or very foolish. Perhaps both. Summon the council, Rektal ordered. All 217 member species. Tell them that something unprecedented has happened. Tell them that humanity has arrived 3 centuries early, and they came through the front door like they owned the place. The aide hurried away to deliver the message. Rektal remained at the observation window, his 4 eyes fixed on the tiny human ship. He had served as ambassador for 600 years. He had seen empires rise and fall. He had witnessed the birth of stars and the death of worlds. But he had never seen anything like this. And he had a feeling that this was only the beginning. 3 days had passed since the horizon appeared in the Grand Assembly Chamber. During that time, Captain Daniel Shaw and his crew had been held aboard their ship, surrounded by thousands of alien vessels. Food and water were provided by small drones that appeared at regular intervals. No one was allowed to leave. No one was allowed to communicate with Earth. Daniel spent those 3 days doing something that most people would find boring. He read. The aliens had given humanity access to a small portion of their database, probably as a way of explaining the trouble they were in. Daniel read everything he could find about galactic law, customs, and the beings who enforced them. Lisa Morgan watched him with growing concern. She had barely slept since they arrived, and the stress was showing on her face. They are going to execute us, she said on the 3rd morning. Or worse. I read about something called species quarantine. They lock your entire civilization away for thousands of years. No contact with anyone. Complete isolation. Daniel looked up from his reading. I know. I read about it too. And you are just sitting there calmly? I am preparing. Before Lisa could ask what he meant, a bright light filled the bridge. When it faded, they found themselves standing in an amphitheater larger than anything on Earth. The seats rose up around them in every direction, stretching so high that the upper levels disappeared into clouds. Millions of beings filled those seats, representing every species in the Galactic Council. At the center of the amphitheater, On a floating platform of pure white crystal sat the judges. There were 12 of them, one from each of the oldest species in the galaxy. Their leader was a being called High Arbiter Zelos. He was made entirely of crystal, with no face and no body in the human sense. When he spoke, his voice came from everywhere at once. "Daniel Shaw of Earth," Zelos said, "you stand accused of trespass of the highest order. You have entered the Grand Assembly Chamber without permission. You have interrupted the sacred gathering of the Galactic Council. You have violated laws that have stood for 40,000 years. Daniel bowed his head respectfully. "I understand the charges, High Arbiter. The penalty for this crime is severe. Your species will be placed under quarantine for 10,000 years. You will have no contact with any other civilization. Your technology will be limited. Your expansion will be contained. You will be alone." A murmur passed through the assembly. Lisa grabbed Daniel's arm, her fingers digging into his skin. 10,000 years. Humanity would be forgotten. They would miss everything. The galaxy would move on without them. But Daniel did not look afraid. He looked thoughtful. And then he spoke. "Honored Arbiter, I wish to invoke the right of explanation." The murmur became a roar. Beings who had been half asleep suddenly sat up straight. Translators worked overtime as the phrase passed through the crowd in 1,000 languages. Even the judges seemed surprised. "You know our laws," Zelos said. There was something new in his voice. Curiosity, perhaps. Or respect. "I have spent the last 3 days studying them," Daniel replied. "The right of explanation allows the accused to present context for their actions before judgment is passed. It has been used only 17 times in galactic history. I wish to make it 18. Zelos was silent for a long moment. The other judges leaned toward him, communicating in ways that humans could not perceive. Finally, Zelos spoke again. "Very well. Explain yourself, human. Make us understand why we should not punish your species for your crimes." Daniel stepped forward. He looked small and fragile standing before the assembled might of the galaxy. But his voice was strong and clear. 18 months ago, humanity discovered faster than light travel. We did not develop it through centuries of careful research. We did not earn it through scientific advancement. A man named Kevin Park was trying to build a better coffee maker, and he accidentally folded space-time. The explosion destroyed his laboratory, but it also gave us the stars. A sound rippled through the assembly. It might have been laughter. Daniel continued. "We did not know you existed. We did not know their rules. We did not know that this place was sacred or protected. We saw a signal in the darkness, and we followed it. That is what humans do. We explore. We ask questions. We reach into the unknown to see what we will find." "And what happens," Zelos asked, "when the unknown reaches back? What happens when your curiosity leads you into danger?" Daniel smiled. It was a strange expression to show in this moment, but it was genuine. "Then we learn something new. Then we grow. Humanity has always been this way. We climbed down from trees because we wanted to know what was beyond the forest. We crossed oceans because we wanted to know what was on the other side. We walked on our moon because it was there, shining in our sky, waiting for us." He paused and looked around at the assembled beings. "We did not come here to cause trouble. We did not come here to break your laws. We came because the universe called to us, and we answered. If that is a crime, then I accept the punishment. But I ask you to consider this. Is it not better to have a species that reaches for the stars with open hands than one that hides in darkness, afraid to look up?" The silence that followed was absolute. No one moved. No one spoke. And then, slowly, the voting began. Each species cast their vote through a beam of light. Blue for mercy. Red for punishment. The lights filled the amphitheater like a galaxy of stars, swirling and mixing above the assembly. Lisa watched with her heart in her throat. Daniel stood perfectly still, his eyes on the lights. The final count was closer than any vote in council history. By a margin of only 3 species, humanity was granted provisional status. They would not be quarantined. They would be observed, tested, and judged over the next century. But they would be freed on as the assembly began to disperse. Ambassador Rectile approached Daniel. His skin was a soft green now, the color of respect. "That was well done, human," he said. "You studied our laws and used them to save your people. Few species have shown such wisdom." Daniel shook the ambassador's hand, a gesture that seemed to amuse the alien greatly. "Thank you, Ambassador. But I have a feeling our troubles are not over." Rectile's skin flickered to yellow, the color of concern. "You are more observant than I thought. Did you notice the Krathver delegation? The large ones with scales? They did not vote. No, they watched. They watched you specifically, Captain Shaw. The Krathver are the apex predators of this galaxy. They have not been defeated in 30,000 years, and they are very, very interested in humanity." Daniel felt a chill run down his spine, but he kept his expression calm. "What does that mean for us?" Rectile's skin turned a deep, dark blue, the color of warning. "It means that your real test has not yet begun." The Krathver were legends. Every species in the galaxy knew their name and feared it. They stood 12 feet tall, with bodies covered in armored scales that could stop plasma fire. They had 4 arms, each ending in claws sharp enough to tear through starship hulls. Their eyes could see in complete darkness, and their hearing could detect a heartbeat from half a mile away. For 30,000 years, no species had challenged their place at the top of the galactic food chain. They did not make treaties. They did not form alliances. They did not negotiate. They hunted. Supreme Hunter Krathvex had ruled the Krathver for 600 years. He was the largest of his kind, standing nearly 14 feet tall, with scales so dark they seemed to absorb light itself. His trophy room contained skulls, bones, and weapons taken from the greatest warriors of 100 worlds. No prey had ever escaped him. No enemy had ever defeated him. Now he sat in his throne room aboard the Krathver flagship, watching recordings of the human captain on a massive holographic screen. He had watched these recordings hundreds of times over the past week. He studied every movement, every word, every tiny expression that crossed the human's face. "They are weak," said Hunter Krathmal, his second in command. "Look at them. Their bodies are small and fragile. They have no claws, no armor, no natural weapons. Their ship is primitive. They should not have survived the assembly chamber." Krathvex did not respond immediately. He continued to watch the human, paying special attention to the moment when the verdict was announced. Most beings would show relief or joy at such a moment. The human showed something else. His eyes moved around the room, noting the positions of every being, every exit, every potential threat. Even in victory, he was preparing for the next battle. "And yet they did survive," Krathvex finally said. "They entered the most protected place in the galaxy. They faced judgment from beings who could destroy their entire world. They argued their case using laws they had learned in only 3 days. And they walked away free." "Luck," Krathmal insisted. "Perhaps?" Krathvex rose from his throne, his massive form casting shadows across the chamber. "Or perhaps something more. I wish to test them." On the horizon, life had returned to something like normal. The Council had assigned an escort of 5 ships to guide them through galactic space. They had been given a basic license to travel and trade. Ambassador Vrektal had even arranged for an upgrade to their food synthesizer, which could now make 17 different meals instead of 3. Lisa Morgan was in her quarters. reviewing the day's reports when the communication alert sounded. She answered it without thinking and found herself staring at the largest alien she had ever seen. The being filled the entire screen. His scales were black as night, and his 4 eyes burned with an intelligence that made Lisa's blood run cold. When he spoke, his voice was like thunder echoing through mountains. "I am Krathvex, Supreme Hunter of the Krathver Dominion. I wish to speak with your captain." Lisa's training kicked in. She kept her voice calm, even though her hands were shaking. "One moment, Supreme Hunter. I will transfer you to the bridge." She ran through the corridors faster than she had ever moved in her life. By the time she reached Daniel, she was out of breath and pale as a ghost. "Captain, we have a problem." Daniel took the communication in his ready room. He had read about the Krathver in the database, so he knew what he was facing. But reading about something and seeing it were two very different things. Krathvex was terrifying in a way that went beyond size or weapons. There was something in his eyes that said he had killed more beings than Daniel could count, and he had enjoyed every single one. "Captain Daniel Shaw," Krathvex said, "I have watched you with great interest. You are not like other species. You are small and weak, yet you think and act like a predator. This fascinates me." Daniel kept his expression neutral. "I appreciate your interest, Supreme Hunter. How can I help you?" "I wish to hunt you." The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Daniel felt his heart skip a beat, but he did not let it show on his face. "I see. And if I refuse?" Krathvex made a sound that might have been laughter. "Then I will hunt your entire species. I will come to your world and turn it into my personal hunting ground. I will kill every human I can find, one by one, until none remain. And if I accept, then we follow the ancient rules. Single combat. Hunter against prey. If you survive for one full day cycle, you win. Your species will have the protection of the Krathver Dominion for all time. No one in the galaxy will dare threaten humanity while we stand beside you." Daniel understood immediately. This was not just about him. This was about the future of his entire species. If he refused, humanity would be hunted to extinction. If he accepted and lost, they would become slaves. But if he accepted and won, they would have the most powerful protector in the galaxy. "I accept," Daniel said. Krathvex's eyes narrowed. "You do not ask for time to consider? You do not consult with your leaders?" "No. I accept your challenge, Supreme Hunter. When do we begin?" For a long moment, Krathvex simply stared at the human. Then, slowly, his massive jaws parted in what might have been a smile. "In 3 days. I will send you the coordinates. Come alone, human, and prepare yourself well. No prey has ever survived my hunt." The screen went dark. Lisa burst into the room moments later, having listened to the entire conversation from outside. "Are you insane?" she demanded. "He is 12 feet tall. He has killed thousands of beings. He has hunted species into extinction for sport. He will tear you apart with one hand." Daniel was already moving toward the door. "He could, but he will not. How can you possibly know that?" Daniel paused and turned to face her. "Because I have been studying them. The Krathver respect strength, yes. But what they truly worship is cleverness. Every great hunter in their history won not through brute force, but through intelligence. Krathvex did not become Supreme Hunter by being the strongest. He became Supreme Hunter by being the smartest. So you think you can outsmart a being with 600 years of experience?" Daniel smiled, and there was something in his eyes that Lisa had never seen before. It was not fear. It was not confidence. It was something wilder, something more dangerous. It was the look of a man who had already accepted that he might die, and had decided to make that death mean something. "I do not know if I can outsmart him," Daniel admitted. But I know that humanity did not survive for millions of years by being strong. We survived by being clever, by adapting, by refusing to give up even when everything was against us. If Krathvex wants to hunt a human, he's going to learn what that really means. He walked out of the room, leaving Lisa standing alone with the weight of humanity's future pressing down on her shoulders. The arena was an artificial moon, built thousands of years ago specifically for Krathva hunting rituals. It orbited a dead star in a forgotten corner of the galaxy, far from any trade routes or inhabited worlds. Dense jungle covered its surface, filled with engineered predators and environmental hazards designed to make survival almost impossible. Daniel Shaw stood at the edge of a clearing, watching his shuttle fly away. He was alone now. His only equipment was a basic survival kit and a small knife, both standard issue for human exploration teams. The air was thick and humid, filled with sounds he did not recognize. Creatures moved in the shadows of the trees, watching him with hungry eyes. On the other side of the moon, Krathvex landed with only his traditional hunting spear. It was a weapon passed down through generations of supreme hunters, made from the bones of a creature that had gone extinct before humans learned to walk upright. The spear had ended thousands of lives. Soon, it would end one more. The rules were simple. Daniel had one standard day cycle to survive. If he was still alive when the time ran out, he would win. If Krathvex caught him, he would die. There were no other rules. No save zones. No weapons restrictions. Just a hunter and his prey, alone in a world designed for death. For the first 6 hours Daniel ran, he used every survival technique that humanity had developed over millions of years of evolution. He created false trails by dragging branches behind him, then doubled back and went a different direction. He climbed trees to avoid leaving footprints, swinging from branch to branch like his distant ancestors had done. He rubbed mud and plant matter on his skin to mask his scent. Krathvex followed at a steady pace, impressed despite himself. The human was faster than he had expected, more resourceful. The false trails were clever. The scent masking was effective. 3 times, Krathvex came within striking distance, only to find that his prey had anticipated the ambush and slipped away at the last moment. Interesting, Krathvex said to himself, examining the ground where Daniel had escaped. Very interesting. But the Supreme Hunter was patient. He had hunted species that could move through solid rock. He had tracked creatures that could turn invisible. No prey had ever escaped him for a full day cycle. And this human would not be the first dot at the 12-hour mark. Something changed. Daniel stopped running. His trail led to a network of caves beneath a volcanic ridge, where hot springs created clouds of steam that rose into the sky. Krathvex approached the cave entrance with caution. The human scent was strong here, mixed with something else. Smoke? Chemicals? The hunter hesitated for the first time. Inside the caves, Daniel worked with desperate speed. He had found what he was looking for during his study of the Krathva database, a detailed map of this moon, including its geological features. The caves were a maze of tunnels created by ancient lava flows. They were dark, confusing, and filled with narrow passages that a 12-foot predator would struggle to navigate. But caves alone would not save him. Daniel needed more. He gathered materials from the environment around him, sulfur deposits from the hot springs, certain plants that burned with bright light, minerals that released toxic gases when heated. He combined these with items from his survival kit, creating a series of traps throughout the cave system. The traps were not designed to kill. Nothing Daniel could build would penetrate Krathva armor. Instead, they were designed to confuse, delay, and frustrate. Falling rocks to block passages. Chemical mixtures that would burn the eyes and overwhelm the senses. Bright flashes that would temporarily blind even eyes adapted to darkness. Krathvex, reached the cave entrance 3 hours later. He could smell the human inside, along with the strange chemical scents he had noticed before. He could also smell something else: confidence. The human was not running anymore. He was waiting. "Human," Krathvex called into the darkness. "You have run well. Better than any prey I have hunted in centuries. But this ends now. Come out and face your death with honor." Daniel's voice echoed from deep within the caves, bouncing off the walls so that it seemed to come from everywhere at once. "I have a different idea. Come in here and face me. Unless you are afraid of the dark." Krathvex felt something he had not experienced in 500 years: uncertainty. The caves were unknown territory. The chemical smell suggested traps. The human's voice carried a tone of challenge, almost of mockery. A wise hunter would wait outside and starve his prey out. But Krathvex was not just a wise hunter. He was the supreme hunter. He could not show weakness. He could not refuse a challenge from prey. His entire identity, his entire species' respect for him, depended on his ability to hunt and kill anything that stood before him. He entered the cave. The first trap triggered within minutes. A pile of loose rocks collapsed from above, crashing down on Krathvex with enough force to shake the entire tunnel. The rocks did not hurt him, but they blocked the passage behind him, forcing him to move forward. The second trap was worse. A chemical mixture ignited as he passed, filling the tunnel with blinding light and choking smoke. Krathvex roared in pain as the light seared his sensitive eyes. He stumbled forward, unable to see, following the human scent through the darkness. And through it all, Daniel kept moving. He knew the caves now, had spent hours memorizing their layout. He led Krathvex deeper into the maze, springing trap after trap. Each one was small on its own, but together they added up. The Supreme Hunter's armor became blackened with soot. His eyes stung and watered. His legendary sense of smell was overwhelmed by the chemical mixtures that filled the air. "Your ancestors hunted in packs," Daniel called out from somewhere in the darkness. "They used their environment. They set traps and ambush. They won through cleverness, not just strength. When did your people forget that?" Krathvex roared in fury, but the sound was swallowed by the caves. He slashed at the walls with his claws, bringing down tons of rock in his rage. But the human was not there. The human was always somewhere else, always one step ahead. For the first time in 600 years, Krathvex felt what it was like to be the prey. To be confused, frustrated, hunting shadows in the dark. To have every advantage stripped away, every sense dulled, every attack miss its mark. The day cycle ended with Daniel Shaw walking out of the caves on the opposite side of the mountain. He was exhausted. His clothes were torn, his body was covered in bruises and burns, and he could barely stand. But he was alive. Krathvex emerged an hour later. His armor was cracked and scorched. His eyes were swollen nearly shut. His legendary spear was lost somewhere in the maze of tunnels, buried under tons of fallen rock. He looked less like a supreme hunter and more like a survivor of a natural disaster. The watching galaxy held its breath. 2 billion beings had followed the hunt through cameras scattered across the artificial moon. They had seen the small human outrun, outthink, and outlast the most feared predator in known space. They had seen the impossible happen, and now they watched as the Supreme Hunter and the human stood face to face in the pale light of a dying star, waiting to see what would happen next. Daniel Shaw stood in the center of the landing zone, watching as Krathvex walked slowly toward him. The Supreme Hunter's armor was cracked and blackened. His 4 eyes were swollen from the chemical traps. His legendary spear was lost forever in the caves. He looked nothing like the terrifying predator who had started the hunt. He looked almost mortal. Around them, holographic projectors broadcast the scene to every corner of the galaxy. 2 billion beings watched from their homes, their ships, their stations. The Galactic Council had suspended all other business. Even species who had never shown interest in humans before were watching now, waiting to see how this would end. Krathvex stopped 10 feet from Daniel. Up close, the difference in their sizes was almost absurd. The Supreme Hunter was nearly 3 times the human's height, with 4 arms and claws that could cut through steel. Daniel was bruised, exhausted, and armed with nothing but a small knife that he had never even drawn. "You have won," Krathvex said. His voice was rough, damaged by the smoke he had breathed in the caves. But there was no anger in it. Instead, Daniel heard something that surprised him. The Supreme Hunter was laughing. Not the cruel laughter of a predator, but the genuine laugh of someone who had just experienced something unexpected and wonderful. "In 600 years of hunting," Krathvex continued, "no prey has ever defeated me. You are the first, the only one. And you did it not with strength or weapons, but with your mind. With traps and tricks and a knowledge of the terrain that I should have had, but did not. You hunted me, human. You made me the prey." Daniel bowed his head slightly. "I had good teachers. My ancestors survived on a world full of predators larger and stronger than themselves. They learned that the mind is the greatest weapon. They passed that knowledge down through generations, through millions of years of survival. I only used what they taught me." Krathvex was silent for a long moment. Then he reached up and removed the ceremonial pendant from around his neck. It was a piece of ancient bone, carved with symbols that were older than human civilization. It represented the authority of the Supreme Hunter, the right to lead and command all Krathver everywhere. "I cannot give this to you," Krathvex said. "You are not Krathver. It would mean nothing in your hands. But I can give you what it represents." He held the pendant up so that the holographic cameras could capture it clearly. When he spoke again, his voice carried to every corner of the galaxy. "From this day forward, humanity walks under the protection of the Krathvor Dominion. Any species that threatens them threatens us. Any who harm them answer to me. The humans are not our prey. They are our equals. They have earned this through blood and cleverness, through a hunt that I will remember for the rest of my days." He lowered the pendant and looked at Daniel with something that might have been respect. "You have changed me, human. For 600 years, I believed that hunting was about killing, about dominance, about proving that I was the strongest. You have shown me that it can be something more. A test, a challenge, a way to learn and grow." Daniel reached out and shook one of Krathvex's massive hands. The gesture seemed to amuse the Supreme Hunter greatly. "Thank you for sparing my life," Daniel said. "I know the old rules would have let you kill me even after I won." "The old rules are for old hunters," Krathvex replied. "I think it is time for new rules. And I think you humans will help us write them." The reaction across the galaxy was immediate and powerful. Species that had looked at humanity with contempt now saw them differently. The Sithri Collective, led by Ambassador Vrektal, sent a formal request for alliance within hours. The crystalline beings who served as high arbiters invited human observers to their ancient meditation rituals. A dozen other species sent messages of friendship, curiosity, and respect. On the horizon, the crew celebrated with the limited resources available to them. Someone had found a way to make the food synthesizer produce something that tasted almost like cake. The pilot had rigged the communication system to play music. For one night, the weight of the galaxy lifted from their shoulders. Lisa Morgan found Daniel in the ship's small observation deck, staring out at the stars. He looked tired in a way that sleep would not fix. The hunt had taken something from him, even as it had given humanity a future. "You did it," she said quietly. "You actually did it. Humanity has protection, allies, a place in the galaxy. All because you were brave enough to face the most dangerous predator in known space." Daniel shook his head. "I did not face him. I showed him something he had forgotten. The Krathver were once like us, small, weak, forced to survive through cleverness. Somewhere along the way, they became the thing they had once fought against. They became predators who hunted for sport instead of survival. I just reminded Krathvex of what his people used to be. And now what? Where do we go from here? Daniel turned from the viewport. The exhaustion was still there, but something else was coming through now. A spark of excitement. A hunger for what came next. Now we do what humans have always done. We explore. We learn. We make friends and enemies and everything in between. We find our place in this galaxy, not by being the strongest or the most advanced, but by being the most curious, the most adaptable, the most stubborn. He smiled, and Lisa found herself smiling back despite everything. Besides, Daniel added, I heard there is a species on the other side of the galaxy that communicates entirely through interpretive dance. I think we should go say hello. Lisa laughed for the first time in days. You want to start another diplomatic incident? I want to see what else is out there. And I want to show the galaxy what humanity can do when we put our minds to it. The horizon turned toward the stars and jumped into hyperspace, carrying humanity's future with it. Behind them, Supreme Hunter Krathvex watched the tiny ship disappear. He had already given orders to his flagship to follow at a distance. He wanted to see where these humans would go, what they would do, how they would change the galaxy around them. For the first time in 600 years, the Supreme Hunter was not hunting to kill. He was hunting to learn. And he had a feeling that these humans had many more lessons to teach him. Across the galaxy, beings of every shape and size were having the same thought. Humanity had arrived not with armies or weapons, but with courage, cleverness, and an unshakable belief in their own potential. They had faced the greatest predator in known space and won. They had earned their place among the stars. And this, everyone agreed, was only the beginning. The universe was vast and full of wonders waiting to be discovered. And humanity, for all their small size and short history, was ready to discover them all.